Welcome to Smart Career Planning, a podcast that discusses anything and maybe everything that goes into planning a smart career journey. I'm your host, Helen Chow. Welcome to our 16th episode. Today we are going to talk about fears. As many times as we've heard growing up that fears are bad, don't listen to your fear. As an adult, we might have heard equal number of times that being fearful is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it can be pretty good for you. It means you're still alive, and fear is meant to protect you. Now, how does fear manifest itself when it comes to career building? Well, I've seen a lot of job applicants in the past where they've only worked for one company their entire career, and I'm talking about 30 plus years. I've also seen people with the same title and have been doing the same job for the same company for 5 plus years. I've encountered incredibly talented professionals, but when I ask them, why don't you do more with your life? They give me a list of excuses, including, well, I just don't have time, and I'm tired after a 40-hour work week. For those of you who attended my webinar, How to Create a Winning Resume and Cover Letter, I talked about someone in my network who had been working for a Fortune 500 company for over a decade, and she held a manager title throughout those 10 years. But her scope of responsibility kept increasing. Now, she was poached with an opportunity to be a director. How do you think she responded to that opportunity? Well, she said, "Well, director? I can't be a director. I've never been a director." What kind of job do you think she ended up getting after the company laid her off? Well, she joined another Fortune 500 company as a specialist. Yep, you heard me right. After 10 years of being a manager, she took a step back in being a specialist, which is definitely, again, a step back. Now, you may think by now, well, Helen, that's depressing. How are you going to turn this podcast around and make it inspiring? Well, hold on tight. I, too, am a very fearful person. Growing up, I just never took much risks. I didn't learn how to ride a bicycle until I was 19 years old. So I had never fallen off a bike. I had never gone down a hill until I became an adult. I had never played any sports growing up until I turned 28, which means I never had to push myself physically and risk getting hurt. And prior to starting my own business, I never really had to apply for a job either. I would say 95% of the jobs I had in the past were all referrals or me being recruited. What I'm trying to say is, I lived a very sheltered life up to that point. I wouldn't know what it's like to challenge myself, or what is the end of my bubble and how to go beyond it. However, one thing I've seen myself doing over the past years is instead of saying no because I'm afraid, I replace it with, I wonder how, and create baby steps for myself. So as I mentioned, I did not ride a bicycle until I turned 19, and once I learned it, I didn't even start riding a bicycle until more than 15 years later. But now I ride my bike everywhere I go. And for those of you who don't know where I live in San Francisco, which is one of the more populated metropolitan cities. I'm able to weave in and out now. I'm able to weave in and out of traffic, weave in between buses, cars, motorcycles, and cyclists and jaywalkers. I might not have played any sports growing up, but when I did at the age of 28, I picked up rock climbing. I actually started out climbing at the gym, at the indoor gym first, and I quickly started climbing outdoor with my friends as well. While I might have never quit a job before I have another job, when an opportunity came up where I could be an entrepreneur, I told the person, well, give me 2 days, and I'll let you know on the third day how this would work out. When someone thinks of fear, we immediately jump to the conclusion that we're naysayers. That's not true. It's just that we tend, quote unquote, we tend to say no because we think of the bad things that would happen along the way. So how are we going to turn fear into an engine for success? First, you need to be absolutely convinced that there are some truth to what a naysayer say. The reasons you have in your mind that can potentially come true, there's some truth to them, right? So what you really need to do is you need to slow your mind down and train yourself to replace no with, I wonder how. For example, when my partner asked me to go with him and ride a bicycle around San Francisco, but that's before I start riding my bike every single day. But instead of saying no because, well, I don't want a car to hit me and die, I say, maybe we can ride around when there's less traffic and maybe during the day. When you think about it, I want to say no because I first think of a car hitting me. By slowing down, I can begin to think logically. Logically speaking, I am more likely to get hit by a car while crossing the street than when I'm on a bicycle. And if my real fear is really about the amount of traffic, then I can pick a time in the day when there's not much traffic and see how it goes. Maybe I can go on a quieter street. So I did go with him on a Saturday midday, and what I learned was it was pretty amazing. It was not cars that I should be concerned about. It's other bikers getting too close to me or aggravating bus drivers. And that was so eye-opening for me because without taking that baby step and actually had an exchange with my fear, I would have never known that all along what I was afraid was wrong. Now, how can you apply it in your daily life or in your career? Well, let's go back to that lady I mentioned earlier, the one from the Fortune 500 company who didn't believe that she could be a director. So she took a step back in her career instead. Imagine you're that lady and you're still in that company or with that company. Someone approached you and say, "Hey, one of my friends is looking for a director. I think you should apply. You think you'd be a good fit." You immediately want to say no because you've never been a director. Now, instead of saying no, say, I wonder how. Now, when you say no, you stop doing something. You stop doing anything. That's the end of the chapter. But when you say, I wonder how, you're creating an internal dialogue, a dialogue that ignites actions. Well, you need to know what a director does, right? That is how. You need to know what a director does, and more specifically, what that company is looking for in a director. So to start out, look at the job description and then ask your friend to connect you with the hiring manager. Once you take that one step, that will lead to more steps, such as, now that you will be speaking with a hiring manager, you actually have to do homework. You have to put together a resume. You have to research on what a director does. How's the level of strategy involved? You're forcing yourself by giving yourself a timeline. What's going to happen anyway? The worst that will happen is no, you're not qualified. That's the worst that will happen. But what do you gain at the end? A chance to say yes to yourself, the opportunity to know what a director level role entail outside of your own company. You know that someone in your life believes in you. Also, during the interview, you may realize that, wow, I'm really not disqualified for the job, but who cares? You know that you haven't done X, Y, and Z, and now you can go back home and figure out what you need to do to gain those experiences. Will it be going after side gigs? Will it be an open dialogue with your current manager so you can gain those skill sets? Well, I hope you find this webinar actually, I hope you find this podcast helpful. If you feel like you're considering taking a leap in your career but not sure how, please do sign up for my 15-minute free career consultation. If you're ready to take a leap, you're actively applying for a job, I encourage you to sign up for 2 of my webinars. One is called How Do You Use LinkedIn to Prepare for a Job Interview, and the other one is called How to Write a Winning Resume and Cover Letter. How to Use LinkedIn to Prepare for a Job Interview is a 45-minute webinar where 30 of those minutes are solid content and 15 minutes Q&A. When someone asks us a question that is Googleable, we get a little annoyed. I am no exception. For 30 minutes, in this webinar, we'll talk about how to use LinkedIn to conduct a basic research. So instead of asking a recruiter those basic Googleable questions, you can leverage the answer to ask something a bit more insightful. You will also learn how to conduct an intermediate research for your interview with the hiring manager. You will also learn how to conduct an advanced research using LinkedIn so you can impress the hiring team. Now, during the 15-minute Q&A, you will have the opportunity of putting me on the spot by giving me the name of a company you are interested in working for. I will walk you through in real time how to put the new information to practice. Now, I may not be able to do that with every single one of you, but I would definitely pick the first person who volunteer. Now, in how to write a winning resume and cover letter, I will walk you through step by step on how to write an eye-catching resume. From dealing with writer's block to not knowing what to write, we'll cover them all. To learn more and to sign up, please to check out www.interviewwriteconsulting.com/services. Okay, have a great rest of the week, folks. I will see you at either one of my webinars or both my webinars, or I will see you in 2 weeks here at my podcast, Smart Career Planning. Bye now.